So, Marius, you are multiple times founder. You have done your exits, and now for a number of years, you are investing in early stage, and currently with FIRSTPICK, right? A pan-Baltic, very active early stage investor. Is that fair summary?
Sounds better when you're saying that. Yeah, I'm glad definitely, that I had this experience as a founder and now sitting on another side of a table. So being in the ecosystem is what I love to do. Absolutely.
Awesome. And that is something that we would be really good to tackle in this conversation. Essentially, pick your brain on your more than a decade's worth of founder experience and how that experience has been stress tested through investing in and reviewing thousand plus or thousands of pitches and talking to founders. And would love to make a battle between these two personalities, you as a founder and you as an investor.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can give you like a very quick, recap on those last decades, to listener, to understand. So basically, my entrepreneurial entire journey started back right after university. I never had, full-time employee job, like 2005, my first journeys. It was never called a startup, but it still was thinking through the product business, how to build the products, and of course it's 3 years of experimenting, but we end up in the two companies in the US. It was really good timing for us. I never called it a startup, but it was more like an agencies, but we end up building a product, and that's the first experience obtained. The first crisis as well met that in 2008. The real estate shit boomed up and then so on. So it was another experience as a founder. Later on, with the SaaS wave, of course, it was one product I really focused on. I spent 7 years with this product, always competing with those giants, starting with the Salesforce, Zoho, and of course our well-known Pipedrive from Estonia, building a really cool CRM. We got many awards, with 2 years in a row. Globally was awarded, most user-friendly CRM on the market and so on. It was acquired later by Xenon Group. It was, entire journey from idea ending up to acquisition. It was great experience. And then we're thinking what to do. And there was a in-between bridge that I spent 2 years in a SVG as a portfolio principal, where I had, this great opportunity to touch from one startup to 200 startups. And in 2 years, there was 400 startups. Touching each of them as a portfolio principal was an amazing experience. I really, enjoy this, how the business are different, how the founders thinking differently. And yeah, later on, now we are with the FIRSTPICK, having our own fund. Last year, we've been most active, fund in the region. So it was a really, really, amazing trip from founder now to an investor. Yeah.
Before we dive into what are those lessons learned, tell me, what's the answer? Which is easier, being a founder or an investor?
There is no such answer which is easier. I think building a startup is super tough. I think that this is one of those, let's say, advantages that VC partners have from entrepreneurial experience. It's more easy to talk with the founder. There are some empathies, there are some, synergies, right? If you are, ex-founder and you know how to build a startup, what the entire journey, what it means actually to fundraise, for yourself when you're talking to the VCs, what it means, first revenue, what it means, 10 camera, 50 camera, 100 camera, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is something, is an advantage when it's not very easy. But of course, being, from fund's perspective, what it means to build a fund, relations with LPs, understanding how the fund's mechanics works. Both, sides are not easy jobs to do, but both are super, super interesting. From, let's say, risk management perspective, I really want to, touch this point. I think build a successful startup is a super rare case, but returns are very high, awards are very high. When you are from fund's perspective, you divert those risks. You're investing, like in 40 startups from one fund, and of course diversify the risks. And of course, if from those 40, the one is lucky one, the ones who can return the fund, then yeah, that's how you split the risk from that point. And you have 100 founders on board you're working with in those upcoming 5-8 years.
That is a fantastic point that you bring up. So, what are those key insights you've learned or relearned what it is to be a founder, how to build a startup? Has that thinking changed as you have been an investor?
I think there are entire day I could talk about this, and that's why we are talking a lot, through our accelerators about those lessons learned, not only from my perspective but from other founders' perspective, touching the business, touching the ambition, maybe even from that point touching personal goals, company goals, and then going through a process, fundraising topics. So, but maybe also viewing from both sides, the one side that is always raising, the other side who's always investing. That may be something interesting more to talk. I think that many founders, including myself in early days, focusing on a fundraising too early. And even we call it early stage startups, but many founders jumping into fundraiser campaign too early. That's why, from the investor's perspective, there are so much noise, because many startups are coming too early, and of course you're skipping, spending not much time, to diving deeper. There is not a big secret. Like, even from perspective, we're investing on only 2% of deals we getting, only 2%. So last year invested in 20 companies. It means that we screened 1,000 startups. 1,000, like it's a huge number. So imagining that this 1,000 startup in the early stage perspective was like too early, not ready, not prepared. It's not like not interesting. All ideas are cool. All founders are one another way interesting, but they're not ready. Of course, we can talk into details. Maybe it's not a VC case. Maybe it's not necessarily an interesting for our particular fund, but overall they're not ready. And I can definitely agree with myself. When I was raising early days, pre-seed and then later seed, I was not ready and not equipped, and many times that's why it took too long for me to raise capital. But now, when you're understanding the rules of the game, the preparation, what the investors looking for, and definitely the matter of good timing, that's also super important. That's the biggest finding, I think, for myself.
Okay, so let's make it practical. What are those 5 things that investors look for? And you go through those 1,000 startups and reject the 98%. What are those 5 things that are have to be there for those remaining 20?
Yeah, absolutely. So the most important thing when we're talking about early stage, it's the founders. It sounds like a cliche. I'm definitely saying nothing new here, but it's the founders. The personalities behind, the team experience behind, how long you know each other if you're more than solo founder, have you worked together, the problem solving mindset in the founder, ability to hustle, ability to deliver, ability to sit on several different chairs, ability to hire, ability to fire. So that's all those skills going to a founder, understanding what is the difference when you are an employee in your own company and the founder. And I'm talking, let's take a classic situation: 3 co-founders, CEO, CTO, and salesperson, let's say, right? And the classic explanation, of course, CEO is talking with the investor because thinks that it's a CEO job, to bring investors on board. And yes, but when you're 3 co-founders in an early stage, the same CTO is co-founder and an employee building the product. The same sales or marketing person is the co-founder and an employee in his own company, including the CEO as an employee in the company and co-founder. So this realization and understanding what is your role and responsibility as a co-founder in the company, and what is your role and responsibility as an employee in the company, the founders still don't understand in the early stage. So that's a super important part from investors' perspective, and how to prepare for that from early stage startup. That's the third thing. Another part, of course, not jumping with the full effort in the heads on the fundraising capital. First of all, understanding, are you on the same page when it comes on personal goals, on company goals, and then landing to tasks and OKRs, etc. So we seeing this a lot, that the founders are not aligned on the goals. It's also flagging from the investor's perspective. That's number two probably, and we are always challenging about this, how ambitious are founders and how they are on the same page when it comes to goals. So yeah, ambition is also super important, not just wanting to be number one in the Baltics, for example, but being really top leader in your category, leader in the world, like in the upcoming 5 to 6 years, for example. Yeah. And all those soft skills, being a hustle, ability to deliver, being a good communicator, these are super important for a co-founder team.
Well, these all sound fantastic on paper, but how do you actually, with a very limited time and probably without even seeing them, let's talk about top of funnel. How do you spot? Yeah, I want to talk with this team. No, I don't want to talk to these. Maybe let's change gears. What are the reasons you reject most?
Yeah, absolutely. So very good question. How to sell yourself? I'm using this word particularly, how to sell yourself, right? You can be a good, hustler, you can have ambition, but if you cannot sell yourself through this noise that investors are having, in the funnel, the inbound, outbound, that also, decks are coming in, applications are coming in, many events. So how to be exceptional? It's not an easy task. That's why you as a founder as well, you need to be visible. You need to be in the ecosystem. You need to, not to be in a stealth mode. That's also something interesting we can touch a bit later. But if you are not visible, if you are no name, if you cannot, sell yourself, yeah, most probably investors may skip you and they are not reaching you. But how to be more exceptional through this entire noise is definitely to put more weight on yourself instead of a product. You're seeing, a lot of things that 80% of those DEX presentations and even pitches are about the product. But less, the last slide somewhere, in the end, with no backgrounds, with no, strengths and so on. Just, yeah, this is our team, by the way. You should be very, very proud who you are. Even you don't have no tons of those experience. Maybe you don't have this, like serial entrepreneurial like exits, etc. But still, you have something. You work together, right? You had some challenges solved, right? You are completing each other. You need to pack it. You need to pack it as a strong team, and that's how you're selling yourself as a founding team. That I would really want to talk to you.
I, on the other hand, with our investment team at BADideas.fund, we've seen that we were just talking about the other week, and one observation that came up was ideas are just too small. And building on your point, Marius, there might be great uh, traction, early traction, good product, understanding what problem it solves, but is it big enough? Can you answer for yourself, as an investor? Is it big enough? And because this makes it a friction to uncover, can it be big enough? You can maybe imagine as an investor, but are you sure that the founders get it? So missing the opportunity to showcase you are fucking thinking fucking big. This is about changing the world. And yeah, this is the first steps are very practical, down to earth, how we're actually getting from one milestone to the next, but never forgetting the big vision and selling it early. How do you feel about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you touching so important point here, Raymond, here, but I think it's a very, very related to founders' personality as well. Idea big enough, like market big enough, it's one thing. But from our experience, from my experience, I can say that those limits also are often met in founders' head. They can have a really cool idea, but they have limits in their heads how this idea could be actually big. And this is something that we are fighting a lot, like actually boosting the ambition, like kicking the ass. Can you actually dream bigger than like very, very locally? Yeah, we go into Polish market, maybe German, maybe UK, maybe sometime to US market. This is something we're dreaming about, but very carefully, under a pillow. And this is something touch back to our founders. Could be really, really big ideas. And I have particular one example. I don't want to mention the company, but we're talking like these days, literally amazing idea, like futuristic vision. If we would go through this Sequoia framework, but we typically meet those, here on fire hard fact that this future vision like idea, and we love it. But when we start challenging the founders, we see that they still thinking about this like, yeah, maybe it could be big, maybe it could be big, but the idea is definitely big, and we can see this. And we started challenging, can you be more ambitious? Can you dream more bigger from here? So totally, I'm totally hearing you that this is the matter of idea, how it can be big, but it's also touching the founder side as well, and their heads.
Really good point. What founders I've seen don't recognize on this point, why does it matter? It doesn't matter just for this stage investors, just to keep them happy, and will it lead to a bigger outcome, right? It matters on so many angles, right? It matters on, are you actually going to be able to sell to your customers your vision, on partners your vision? Are you going to be able to attract fantastic talent based on your vision? Are you going to be able to attract next stage capital based on your vision? So this is basically a key component that needs to be there, and I totally agree with you. But to build on that, I had the personal experience of, the same kind of mentality. Oh, what, like, if I'll make my best effort and maybe it will work out, but maybe it will not and it will be fine. But you still struggle and go for it. When I was landing from Riga to San Francisco and going for the 500 startups accelerator, Silicon Valley, when I landed, I had this imposter syndrome. I thought, I don't belong here. They have made a mistake in my application. Totally, I'll be taking my next flight back home. But when I was week one, week two, month two in the accelerator, working side by side, back to back meetings, back to back all of these events, and seeing how others perform. We from the Baltics, and there were, I think, 3 teams from Baltics that batch, were coming in first in the co-working space and leaving the last. We had the best work ethic, and also the results were speaking for themselves. We were not, the bottom line being, we were just as good as any of the US teams, or even better. So it's just a mindset question.
Absolutely. I completely agree here. We in this region in the Baltics are super hustlers, like really, really big hustlers. And we can compare, and we are comparing, to other startups, including, the US, founders, the German founders, UK founders. We are the hustlers, not only founding team, but, entire startup, top hires that we deliver a lot, we're building a lot, but our main challenge are in our heads. It's changing, and it's changing dramatically, and hopefully in the upcoming 5-10 years we are going to reach that level that there is no taboo and limits. But so far we're still meeting this fear of dreaming bigger, and becoming number one, and from day one. And this is something we need to encourage each other to. So that's why it's, even from investors perspective, it's not about the money only. It's about encouraging, supporting, pushing, challenging, and moving forward.
Yeah. So this is our priority as investors. Let's start the work and change this. So the outcome is, that needs to happen is that their decks better way how they pitch, but it starts with the mindset, as you say, right?
Absolutely. And this is something you cannot see in the deck. Getting to your question, you cannot see that deck in between all those slides, solution, problem, product, blah 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 blah, and at the end the team. So that's where all this noise is very challenging for the founders to be visible. And of course, the events are helping, ecosystem events are helping, where you're meeting the person in between the corridors, saying hi, and all these, small chit chats where you're meeting the founder, and then you can see, this approach and how he talks and how he see the things, and even to a small question, how he answered that, you can read it. We're doing a lot of experimenting. We were, I think 2 years ago, we're doing, those MBTI tests and seeing how they match side between the co-founders, how they are going to be able, not limit themselves. And of course, through the programs and accelerators, we are even pre-accelerators. We doing one of those main exercises, working with the founding team, open this, what in they had. And yeah, absolutely, that's not an easy task to be visible from the deck and application process, but we are trying to get this sketch to read from a deck, get first call, and from this first call, if you read that we like the founder, even the product is boring, maybe we're not believing in everything, but if the founder is here, material is good, we definitely want to talk with them.
Mm. Why is it noisy?
Because everyone wants to be, a startup now, want to be founders, and this is super cool. We're seeing hackathons are happening, like in Kaunas on the weekend, 10 teams participating, 3 of them already right after hackathon sending decks to us. So that's how you're getting all this noise, right? So super early stage, having the idea, just recently built the team, and they putting the deck with 5-6 slides, and they sending. That's how we're building the noise here, and it's good. And it's okay that all those founders are validating things. They're trying to become a team. It's the first attempts of theirs, so it's all good. But yeah, absolutely, the ecosystem is glowing. Things are good, especially in the early stage, despite the fact that late stage are super slow. But last year in the pre-seed, what we had 80 deals in H1, 80 deals in H2, I think, something like that. So in a pre-seed stage. So, and it's a pre-seed. And if we're considering pre-seed, how we call this, acceleration, pre-acceleration, incubation, so it's happening much bigger numbers in all the Baltics. So yeah, I'm happy that all this noise are happening.
What is your take? Build in stealth modes or build in the open?
If you are a serial entrepreneur or ex, let's say, startup name, how we typically ex Bolt, ex Pipedrive, ex Vinted, ex Wise, and you are in a stealth mode building something, everyone wants so everyone's hey, how can we get to this, what is building, it's working this fear of missing out, and the funds definitely looking for those type of experienced founders. So yeah,
Very
if you
simple
are
recipe
first
then.
time founder,
So battle tested, go stealth mode. If not battle tested, build open.
yeah, yes.
Good. We have a very clear recipe for founders. Okay. What we haven't covered? What's the last point on your mind right now lately? What's going on in the landscape? What's getting you excited?
It's a good timing. It's a good timing to boot a startup. It's a good time to be a founder, despite the fact all the shit's happening in the world now, and things are a bit slower. But it's a good time to be a founder, to build something in the world that, with all the technology, all the AI, all the innovations that are happening on the tech side now, to come in and to realize your ideas. The capital is here. So many tools and instruments are here, like incubations, pre-accelerations, acceleration, angel investment instruments, different type of angel investment instruments, syndicates, and et cetera, et cetera. So capital is here, knowledge is here, ecosystem is here. So my biggest takeaway, yeah, it's a good time to be a founder.
That's a fantastic close to our conversation. I totally agree. With the world becoming more uncertain, who is best positioned to navigate it? It's those that are able to adapt. And those who are able to adapt are founders.
Totally. Totally.
Great. Let's wrap it up on this positive note. Thanks, Marijus. It was really awesome.
Thank you, Raymond. Looking forward.
Right.
Ciao.